You know that feeling when you scroll through a sea of bookshelf speakers, see those glossy photos, read the hype about studio-grade imaging, and then when you finally get them home realize they sound like the cheap pair you left on the floor a year ago? I've been there more than once, and it's why I'm doing this deep dive. I want to help you avoid the disappointment of a beautiful box that just doesn't deliver where it counts. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's start with the problem most buyers face with bookshelf speakers. They're a sweet spot between size and performance, but they also sit in a gray zone where room acoustics, amplifier power, and placement can make or break the experience. You can have a pair that looks stunning in Walnut, but if your listening room is too reflective or you're using a tiny integrated amp, the music can end up flat, muffled, or even harsh. The R3 Meta tries to solve a lot of those hidden issues, but it still respects the basic physics of small enclosures. KEF's 12th generation Uni-Q driver array is the core of the R3 Meta. Instead of the traditional 2-driver layout, they put the tweeter in the center of the mid-bass cone. In practice, that means the sound from the high frequencies originates from the same point as the mids and lows, which gives a more coherent soundstage. I've listened to a pair set up on a pair of isolation stands in a medium-size office, and the imaging felt surprisingly precise. Piano keys stayed glued to the left-right axis, and vocal placement didn't wander across the room like it can with some other bookshelf designs. That's a real-world benefit if you're into critical listening, mixing, or just want that you're right there in the hall feeling when a symphony rolls in. The meta part of the name isn't just marketing fluff. KEF uses a material absorption layer that claims to soak up 99% of internal resonances. In the field, that translates to less coloration when you crank up the volume or move the speakers off the ideal sweet spot. I tested the pair at 80 dB with a well-matched solid-state amp, and the mid-range stayed clean, no buzzing or boxy aftertone that you sometimes hear when a driver's back wall vibrates. For everyday use like streaming a podcast while you work, gaming with directional cues, or watching a dialogue-heavy drama, it means the speech stays intelligible and the soundtrack doesn't become a muddy wall. Now, the strengths are clear, but the R3 Meta isn't a magic bullet. First, the speakers demand a decent amount of power to hit their sweet spot. The Uni-Q driver is efficient, but you'll want at least 50 watts per channel from a clean amp to fully appreciate the low-end extension. In a tiny bedroom with a low-output integrated amp, the bass can feel thin and the overall impact less compelling. If you have a dedicated stereo amp or a good AV receiver, you'll unlock the full 58Hz 28 kHz range, and the speakers will fill a small to medium room comfortably. Second, the walnut finish is gorgeous, rich grain, a warm visual presence that can become a focal point in a home office or living space. But it also means you need to be mindful of placement near direct sunlight or high humidity, which can warp over time if not cared for. I placed the pair on a solid wooden bookshelf, and after a few months there's no visible finish degradation, but that's because the environment stayed stable. If you're in a sunny apartment or have pets that love to chew, you might consider the gloss black or white options instead. Speaking of placement, the R3 Meta benefits from a few inches of breathing room from the rear wall. The metamaterial layer reduces internal ringing, but the rear port still needs space to work efficiently. In my test room, moving the speakers just 2 inches closer to the wall caused a noticeable dip around 120 Hz, making the bass feel less defined. Adding a thin back panel absorber or simply pulling the speakers a foot away restored the balance. So, the hidden trade-off here is that you need some flexibility in your furniture layout to get the most out of them. Who should buy the KEF R3 Meta? If you're an audiophile who enjoys sitting close to the speakers, appreciates precise imaging, and have a decent amp that can deliver clean power, these are a strong contender. They also shine for creators who need accurate reference sound, mixing a track in a small studio or editing video with a reliable soundtrack. The walnut aesthetic makes them a nice fit for design-focused spaces where the speakers themselves are part of the decor, not just an afterthought. Who should skip them? If your primary use is watching movies in a large living room where you want big, room-filling bass, you'll likely need floor-standing speakers or a subwoofer to complement the R3 Budget shoppers should also think twice. The price point sits well above entry-level bookshelf options, and the performance gain is most evident when paired with quality amplification. Finally, if you're a casual